It's only natural that you take care of him, since you're at home not working. Why do we need to spend the extra money?
My husband pushed the caregiving duties onto me. My name is Ava. I have been married to my husband Leo for 2 years now. We had been living together since we were dating, and upon getting married, we moved into my in-laws' house, where I started living with Leo and his father. At first, I was opposed to it, but I had no choice but to accept it, because my father-in-law needed care and I was the only one who could provide it. The onset of symptoms of dementia in my father-in-law began about a year ago. I was feeling the limits of caregiving alone and proposed to admit him to a facility, but
from now on, I will help on my days off and work harder than ever, so please. Besides, it's best for families to be together, right?
Upon hearing this, I continued to provide care at home as before. Okay, but not just helping, Leo, you need to do your part. I think your father might feel awkward around me sometimes. I took on the task after making this agreement. I believed in what Leo said at the time. After starting to live and taking care of my father-in-law, I noticed something. It was about the facilities on my in-laws' house. Although he could still walk on his own, my father-in-law often stumbled on steps and stairs inside the house. In addition to this, the toilet and the bathroom were narrow and seemed difficult to move in. When I discussed this with Leo, it was decided to renovate the house. It couldn't be helped for my father-in-law's safety, but of course the monthly payments increased. For a few months after the renovation, Leo actively participated in taking care of my father-in-law. However, as the days went by, he stopped accompanying to the bathroom and toilet, and eventually he was not at home even on weekends, using work as an excuse. And about half a year after we started living together, Leo completely stopped helping with my father-in-law's care. Despite this, my father-in-law's condition worsened day by day, and it became difficult for me alone to take care of him in the bath. I had no choice but to consult with Leo. Leo, I can't take care of him alone anymore. If you're not going to help, I think we'll have to put Mike in a facility.
That's not fair. After all, we're family, right? We even renovated the house for this. So hang in there until the end.
If a facility is not an option, what about home care services? Mike has a care certification. Let's use the services we can. It's even hard for me to get him in the bath alone now. But then Leo left in the middle of our conversation. I was at my wit's end and decided to apply for home care services without Leo's approval. Given that my father-in-law was classified as needing level 3 care, I arranged for a caregiver to come to our house for 1 hour each day, 5 days a week, just to help him with his bath. I made sure to use my father-in-law's long-term care insurance to ease any financial concerns, but then a problem surfaced. My name is Lily, and I am a caregiver. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. While explaining the usual routine, I received lectures from the professional caregiver on how to care for my father-in-law at home. It was very educational, and I thought that applying for the service was the right choice. Just when I was thinking that, Leo came home.
Home visit nursing care? What's going on? I wasn't informed about this.
We discussed this. I told you I can't do it alone anymore.
I don't remember agreeing to this. Miss Caregiver, you can leave today. We're fine.
With those words, Leo forcefully sent the caregiver away, even though there was still time left for the care.
Didn't we talk about not having money because of the renovations? Don't make decisions on your own.
I told you, I've reached my limit. You need to take this seriously. What if your father falls and gets hurt? Besides, weren't you supposed to help me with the caregiving?
What are you talking about? You're at home all day without working, so it's only natural for you to provide care. I'm the one who's earning the money for the renovation and the home visit nursing care.
It's only natural for me to care for him because I'm at home all day not working? I was deeply shocked by my husband's harsh words. After that, I decided to have the caregiver come only when Leo was at work. The caregiver who gave me advice on care and listened to my complaints about Leo became an indispensable part of my life. About 2 months later, Leo suddenly offered to help with the caregiving.
You haven't been out over a year, right? I appreciated you always taking care of Dad, so I'll take over today. Why don't you go out and have a good time?
I was so glad that Leo finally understood. I made a hair salon appointment and enjoyed a day of shopping for the first time in a long time. However, in the evening, I started to worry about Leo, who had never bathed my father-in-law by himself and decided to come home earlier than planned. When I got home, the house was eerily quiet. Since my father-in-law was sound asleep in his room, I decided to try going to Leo's room next. However, there was no one in Leo's room, and there were some documents and a note on the desk. To my surprise, it was a divorce form already filled out by Leo. The note said, "Once we're divorced, you can handle the caregiving. I'm off to Guam, so get everything sorted out during the week I'm away." He had given me a day off so that he could pack his bags. Thinking about it, it made no sense for someone who had never been interested in caregiving to suddenly change. I was a fool for trusting Leo even for a moment. What I couldn't understand was why Leo chose this time to go on a trip. So I decided to call Leo. "I saw your note. What's going on? Who are you going to Guam with?"
I'm busy, unlike you. Take care of the divorce papers. I'm at the airport, so I'm going to hang up.
Before he hung up, I heard a voice. It was the voice of a woman calling Leo's name. Apparently, Leo was going on a trip with his mistress. While I was desperately caregiving, it seemed Leo was fooling around with another woman. I was more than just frustrated and sad. I was astounded. Just then, I heard my father-in-law calling me. It had been a long time since he called my name last time, as his dementia had progressed to the point where he no longer recognized me. I was worried about whether Leo had taken care of him while I was out, so I rushed to my father-in-law. "What's wrong? Were you okay while I was out?"
Ava, was today the day the helper was supposed to come?
I was shocked to see my father-in-law looking at me with sharp eyes and answering me properly. "No, she's not coming today, but she's supposed to come tomorrow evening."
I see. Could you bring me something to write on then?
He wasn't supposed to be able to write anymore. Despite my thoughts, I handed him a notebook and a ballpoint pen. I couldn't see what he was writing, but when he finished writing at length, he put the paper in an envelope and handed it to me.
Could you give this to the helper tomorrow?
Understood. I did as my father-in-law told me. That night, my father-in-law forgot my name again, back to his usual self. It felt like what happened earlier was a lie. And when my father-in-law went to sleep, I contemplated many things as I looked at the divorce papers. In retrospect, I think Leo had been acting suspiciously on many occasions. Being fully absorbed in caregiving, I didn't even have the luxury to suspect Leo's infidelity. If Leo was definitely having an affair, I would want to leave the house right away. But I couldn't leave my father-in-law alone. Also, I was jobless and had little savings. There were many uncertainties about getting a divorce. The next morning, Lily came earlier than promised. I immediately handed her the envelope I had received from my father-in-law. Lily read its contents immediately, but her expression gradually darkened. "As a caregiver, I'm a professional, but I consider you a friend, Ava. The story of a husband leaving his wife to care and having an affair is surprisingly common, but this time it's a bit too much. Ava, as a friend, may I offer my assistance?" "Lily, does that letter say that I'm getting a divorce?" "Yes. Your father-in-law seems to have noticed something odd about you, and he apparently saw the note and divorce papers on the desk. He said he couldn't do anything about it himself, so he asked me for help." "There's only a week until your husband comes back, right?" "The letter said more, but let's put that aside for now and start preparing immediately." Lily called for another caregiver to replace her, leaving my father-in-law in the care of the substitute caregiver. The two of us went out. Lily took me to a law office.
Thank you for coming all this way. First, I have something to tell you about Mike's request. Now, about the advance inheritance.
The lawyer handed me a document.
This document is known as a notarized deed, which has both public and legal effect.
It seemed my father-in-law, who had been aware of Leo's infidelity for some time, had requested the creation of this document through Lily. The document stated that my father-in-law was to bestow me with $42,000 and 2 properties he owned while he was alive. Why, to me? I have to thank my father-in-law. "Yes, but Ava, there's one more place you need to go." Following Lily's instructions, I took care of one more task and then returned home. Then I expressed my sincere gratitude to my father-in-law, but he seemed not to understand why I was thanking him. Nevertheless, looking into my father-in-law's eyes, I said thank you. And then, 4 days later, my father-in-law passed away suddenly. The cause was heart failure. I tried to contact Leo, but he did not answer the phone. Having no choice, Lily and I began preparations for the funeral. The relatives who came to the funeral were wondering why his own son was not present. Leo returned home 3 days after that. He was chastised by his relatives. It was natural given that he had been on a trip with his mistress while his wife was left behind after his father's death. Of course, I was the one who told the relatives about Leo's affair.
I didn't know any of this. I just went to change my mood because I was tired from caregiving and work. I didn't have an affair.
You're lying twice. You didn't do any caregiving, so that's a lie. And you and your mistress were clearly captured on the airport camera. After hearing my words, Leo seemed to give up on arguing and quietly listened to the angry words from the relatives. A few days later, I filed for divorce at the city hall, and then I began preparations to move into the condominium that my father-in-law had left me. Then Leo called me.
Where are you now? I don't know why, but the beneficiary of my father's insurance money isn't me. It's you. You didn't plan this with you and that caregiver, did you?
We just did as your father told us. Oh, by the way, the divorce has been finalized. The demand for spousal maintenance should arrive to you through the lawyer soon, so please handle it.
Divorce? Spousal maintenance? You're getting my father's insurance money. Isn't that enough?
It seems Leo forgot that he had given me the divorce papers. Did you forget you left the divorce papers on the desk when you went on a trip? And, by the way, pay the alimony yourself. The life insurance is what your father left me. It's not yours. With that, Leo fell silent. I hung up the phone without a word and immediately blocked Leo's number. Even though I no longer had to care for my father-in-law, I still maintained a good relationship with Lily. Lily had cared for my father-in-law more than Leo ever did. And I will never forget the debt I owe her for helping me both mentally and physically. After that, I received a contact from Leo's mistress, who had reviewed the documents from the lawyer. I went on a trip because Leo told me that the divorce was already finalized. I have cut ties with Leo. Leo will duly pay the alimony. I am sorry for the circumstances with your father-in-law. I was surprised because I had expected her to say Leo wouldn't pay the alimony. She seemed so responsible that I wondered why she had been involved with Leo in the first place. On the other hand, I settled the matter with Leo, agreeing that he would pay the alimony in accordance with legal guidelines. From what I heard, Leo's mistress was rich, and it seems he had depleted his savings due to the cost of their relationships. Pretentious as he is, Leo had also paid for their trip to Guam. Even though he's my ex-husband, it's very embarrassing. Furthermore, he still has a loan for the renovation of his father's house. So, when combined with the alimony, it amounts to quite a sum. It's all his own doing. On top of the difficult life ahead, Leo's divorce reason is known to the relatives, so he won't be able to rely on them. As for me, I have the condominium I inherited from my father-in-law, so I won't struggle to get by. I was left a significant amount of inheritance, and the alimony will also be paid. And recently, I have been studying to get my caregiving qualification learning from Lily. Without forgetting my gratitude to my father-in-law, I plan to enjoy my new life at a leisurely pace while looking for a job.